Welcome back to yet another Re-Educated podcast episode. Today, we have a extremely special guest, Karthi Easwaramoorthy. He lived in the US for 13 to 14 years and built a few startups and decided to move back to his village in Tamil Nadu, India, and now runs an English school and also is the founder of Kanavu Startup Village. I am really excited to have this conversation today. How are you doing?
Thank you so much. I'm doing pretty good. Hope you are doing also good. I'm so excited to have a conversation with you. I'm pretty happy about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's been almost 3 months already since I spent all
Correct.
of November and December with you. And so, I feel like
Correct.
I'm really excited to kind of get into all the work that you do. And it was such a lovely experience being able to learn from you. And so now you get to share about it.
Yeah. I really understood that time itself. You really liked the place. I spent almost like more than a month here. Even I had a very good time with you. Not only me, all the people who were working here also had a good time, and in fact still they are asking when you are coming back here.
That's
Yeah.
nice. I mean, I feel like what the most interesting story to start with is how you got to where you are today. So you moved to the US in the 90s, is that correct?
Yes, correct.
And so you lived there for a bit and then eventually you decided to move back. What was the kind of decision like? What was the process for that decision like for you?
Correct. Actually, I want to answer that question in a different way. Um, I came back because of the reason that I decided to leave the place, right? That was the right. So always this is my place. Always I wanted to live. I I have been trying to live here only because this is the place I was born and brought up. Not only the people around me, I know each and trees over here. I know each and the stones over here, soils over here. I can exactly tell where the road bends, how I went to the school. See, even I lived in the United States for 15 years. I don't think that I can recollect where the road bends or anything, even after traveling in the same room, because the sense of belongingness, right? Because the childhood time always is very important because all the memories were here. So that the coming back became easier. But in fact, leaving the place was very tough for me, right? I was born here, educated in the village. Then I studied engineering, electronics and communication engineering. I learned computer science also, but it is a village. If there was an opportunity for computer science and electronics and communication engineering in my village, I wouldn't have left, I believe. Uh, the only option I had at that time was to get some professor job in nearby colleges in my village. But unfortunately, I went to some of the college and asked for the job, but I was rejected. I didn't get a job. So I know what to do after studying engineering. So I I I first went to Coimbatore, and then in Coimbatore, I started in startup as a software engineer. Accidentally, I started as a software engineer. Then I started to really like that work. I was doing a lot of work in C programming. Then the major break came when I was asked to come for interview in Hewlett Packard in Bangalore, right? That was the time HP came to India and they were setting up their operations in Bangalore. So it was a major break. I got into it. Then from HP, it was pretty easy to come to America because every week, almost every day, the bunch of people leave the company and they throw the parties and say bye bye and to go to America. So that was pretty easy after
That was
joining
happening every
HP
week.
because once you are in place, yeah, yeah, almost every day I can say the people were leaving in one way or other. Like suddenly being in the village, and after that, after joining HP, the America looked so closer, right? Before
Mm,
that, not even I dreamt where is America? Is it possible to go to America? Is it possible to work in America? I never had an idea how to go and things like that. But joining HP multinational, it opened up the so many doors. Then I came to um, United States. As you already said, close to 15 years I lived. I worked for Oracle Corporation, Sun Microsystems, right? Then your question was you wanted to know why I left or how I returned back to India, right?
hmm
So when I was in Bay Area, um, I always wanted to do something in starting up something. So that time I saw a opportunity in India to set up a startup which was selling the bus ticket in 2007. I started a company called ticketgoes.com. When I started, the idea was so now very new that time. Even the people like Amazon, Flipkart, the people who were in the e-commerce were not there in the field. So it was pretty new when I told them that I was going to sell the bus ticket online. So that idea picked up and it was growing really well. Very short period of time. Um, in fact, we crossed our $10 million USD that time in almost like 14 years back. Then I thought that it was a great opportunity uh, to come to India and sit with my company, sit with my team, mold the team to take the company to the next level because I saw a great opportunity. So my decision was very easy to take because already I had something which was really growing, right? Um,
Mm,
if I didn't know what to do after coming back to India, it would have been tough. But I knew exactly what I was going to do when I come back. So the decision was easy.
yeah.
I came to Bangalore. Yeah.
Yeah.
That is
Yeah. I mean,
how in the year 2011 I returned back to
mm,
Bangalore.
so it's been 13 years. I mean, time's
Yeah,
flown by. But,
you're right.
one thing I want to kind of do before moving forward is I think one of the most beautiful parts about Sivagiri is the landscape itself. I mean, the number of farms. I mean, when people typically think of what India looks like, they typically think of large cities like Mumbai. When somebody from outside is thinking about India, they're thinking about some of these really large metropolitan cities. But what's often missed out in that narrative is the beauty of some of the most remote places there. And I mean, just to drive through these roads, and they're gravel paths mostly, where it's just beautiful green farms and coconut trees, and you see cows and chickens, and I mean, it's some of the most beautiful landscape I've seen in India. So can you paint the picture of what Sivagiri looks like for someone who's never been?
Ah, it is. I rate it is yeah, exactly whatever you described, isn't it? It is a typical village, a well-connected village, right? It is not that too remote, right? The people are so educated. In this village, a lot of palm trees and a lot of temples, churches, and everything is there. Not only that, the population was very less when you compare with Bangalore or Chennai or Mumbai. You can say much lesser than America. Maybe it is much lesser than America. So you will see a lot of green field and things like that. Um, One of the greatest advantage in ours, right? Internet has become It is very popular. It is available everywhere. For in my home right now, I am talking to you using fiber optical link. It is coming. Having fiber optical link at your home, having computers, iPads, and iPhones, and sitting at the village with the green trees and without no air pollution, without air. It's a dream place, right?
Yeah.
Whatever you want to learn, you can learn on your own because right now we became so independent. Education became so independent now. You don't need to go and sit in the bigger universities or bigger concrete jungles to learn something, right? Almost everything is available on the internet,
Mm.
and I can give another information about Sivagiri is like we have a pretty good schools also. A lot of good private schools are there. Uh, to my village, more than 10 engineering colleges, buses are coming, right? Schools are there, engineering colleges are there, uh, um, population is less, pure water, pure air, and fiber optical link. You have a subscription to Amazon Prime, Netflix, and all those things, right? Then it's a dream place to live, right? So
Mm.
right? So, and on top of it, right, the people like me, we are building a Kanavu startup village where we are doing a lot of technology stuff also. So, sitting in a place, having such an ambience, right, and also doing what you wanted to do, right? That's a
Yeah.
dream come true.
It's magical.
Dream come true. Yeah, it is a magical for sure. Yeah.
And so, one question I want to get to before we dive into the kind of a startup village is a lot of this work you do with schools. And so my first question for you is growing up, what were some of the biggest problems and issues that you found in Sivagiri, especially when it came to the schools, that made you then want to go build and work with them?
Right. So, um, see, when I see, I know the life of people in city, the life of people in village. I have this privilege of knowing each other because I lived in big cities like San Francisco, Bangalore, and things like that, and village also. Uh, I will, I will give you one scenario, right? Then you can understand. For example, if you take 10 kids out of 10th grade from places like Sivagiri, 10 people, and 10 students, the same 10th grader from another place like Coimbatore, another 10, exactly the 10 students from 10th grade from Mumbai, and 10 students, 10 students from Bay Area, California, right? Or, and
Mm-hmm.
one more 10 students from
Mm-hmm.
Australia, and another one more 10 students from the same 10th grade from London. If you put all those people in a room, right? Um, if you test, test in the sense if you talk to them, right? Um, whenever it can be science or it can be philosophy or it can be about trees or it can be about nature. I will say that everyone knows mathematics, right? If you ask what is 1 plus 1, the people from the village, the people from San Francisco, people from New York will tell the same. The same thing if you say a plus b whole square equal to what, the people will tell. If you ask the Newton's law, they will tell. If you ask Einstein's law, they tell, right? But certain things village people can do, certain people from city can do. For instance, right? The kid from a village can climb up a tree, right? Even if it is at 25 feet higher or 30 feet higher or even 50 feet higher, it can climb. They can, they can, they can closely go and hug the cows without any fear. Even if it is a ferocious, they know how to handle it. if you ask the name of some of the plants, I am sure, not only name of the plants, if you ask them to identify the plants, I am sure the students, the 10 students from village will identify more plants than the guy from New York, because here in village they are dealing with nature. You're living with the nature. You're touching the soil every day. We know exactly where the water is coming from, how cows are fed, how the milks are taken. Those kind of knowledge, practical knowledges, whatever the people are learning out of field trip are already learning here in villages. This is one advantage you can see in the village. The biggest advantage the people coming from the city is communication, right? How to talk, how to present themselves, especially in English. See, if you want to talk in Tamil, right, definitely the people from my village will talk better Tamil. If you ask them to talk the same Tamil from the guy from New York, he will talk like the village guy talking in English, right? Except that communication, the presenting yourself, and the way you look also sometimes, right? In the city, you are not exposed to sunlight, you are not playing outside. Majority of the time, the kids are inside. So you will have a shiny look. Their skins are a little bit shinier compared with the look and the tone of the village kids' skin. That's all a difference, and everything else is the same. So I thought if I can give whatever the thing like communication, confidence, especially English, right? In India, actually it is not true, but in India, speaking in English is taken as a knowledge. See, usually the people will say, oh, he's a great guy. He's a very knowledgeable guy. He can talk in English also, they will tell, right? So it means that is the major difference, right? So I saw here is they have the potential, but only thing is the biggest obstacle of the students from villages, their ability to communicate without fear, without shyness, and things like that. That's the biggest obstacle. Other than that, kind of given an opportunity, right? They will pick up. Yeah, that's what I found.
Yeah, I mean, all that you're saying, it was interesting because when I was working in Gudalur, which is, a few hours drive from Sivagiri, it's, the students were teaching me so much. I mean, we had gone out into the farm and we've caught crabs from the ground. And I was terrified. I was like, I don't know what the crab is going to do. But these kids were, maybe 12, 13, so brave in teaching me exactly how to do it, how to hold them so they don't bite, what to do if they bite. I mean, there's a long list of knowledge that I was like shocked. I was like, I actually don't really know how to handle myself in nature. But it was really interesting because as soon as it came to using the internet or using a laptop, then all of a sudden now it was into my expertise in my field of domain where I was teaching them how to make presentations, how to send emails, how to Google. And I think what you're saying is a really interesting point in that when you live in a city, you learn how to manage yourself in the city. So that's, there's so many things like that. That's figuring out how to walk in a crowded room. That's figuring out how to take a subway and a train and make sure you know how to use public transportation. That's, knowing how to talk to random strangers that you may have never met who don't look like you and figuring out, that's learning how to drive in a lot of traffic. And there's a long list of things that growing up in a city teaches you. But one that you made a great point is that you lose touch with nature. I mean, I came back to the US. I have not seen a single animal, right? I mean, I don't see spiders. I don't see insects. I don't, correct. I barely interact with animals if it's not for somebody's pet. And so there are a lot of things that you simply lose just because you don't have exposure. I mean, I may learn about photosynthesis, but I'm not, working with farms. I'm not working with plants to actually implement all that knowledge. And so I think what you're saying is a really good point. My question is, When it comes to speaking English, right? I mean, why English? Why not develop that confidence speaking Tamil? Why did you choose to go down teaching confidence through the medium of English?
The new language opens up new doors, a new network of people, new knowledge, new material, and things like that, right? See, for example, when I wanted to learn Einstein, how exactly he felt, how he was able to find out the special theory of relativity or general theory of relativity or Newton law. I studied in Tamil medium. I read it, but I was not able to get the crux of that. Even now, if I really want to understand the Einstein, why he said E equal MC square, whatever it might be, lots and lots of great materials are there in English. Worldwide, the people are creating the knowledge, right?
Yeah.
Some of the top universities in America, some of the guy um, from UK, Europe, all these places they are creating, right? So, in fact, I got a fascination for the language English only because of my interest in science, right? I get so much information. See, for example, if I tried to learn Stephen Hawking's from the book, it is translated from Tamil to English, but actually it is missing the crux. If I read the Stephen Hawking's his book, it looks as if it is coming from his words, but that certain things are that crux are missed out when I read it in Tamil. So, for that reason, everyone should learn English, right? The reason is, it breaks the barrier. One. The second, right? Somehow in India, that's the advantage part I talked about. Somehow in India, talking in English is taken as you're a knowledgeable guy.
Yeah.
And talking in English is taken as you are a superior guy. Here, whatever you say, the language doesn't matter. You can develop in Tamil, you can do all those things. Still, the people has been living in the mindset of that slavery from UK, right? Whatever you, if someone talks in English, immediately this guy, if he's not able to communicate back in English, he feels inferiority. So, in my opinion, language does not give knowledge per se, but it overcomes the inferiority complex. It gives the confidence. In my opinion, English give the confidence, especially for the village people, because the village people saw someone speaking English, who are all speaking in English are educated. So they think that the people who are speaking in English got a good job. They have that thing. But if they are not able to talk in English, they feel inferior. So I wanted to break that myth that, right? It is okay to learn English because you can consume a lot of materials. It can be related to anything. It can be related to energy or insects or birds or animals, right? Otherwise you have to depend on the translators and original scientists only from Tamil Nadu. The scientists live everywhere, research going on everywhere. So I believe there should be a common medium across the globe to communicate. So in my opinion, I think English fulfills that role.
Definitely. I mean, when I was teaching, accessing the internet, it was only then I realized how much of it is done in English. I mean, for a lot of my the students I was working with to try to access the internet using Tamil, it limited their accessibility so much to where it felt like I was using the internet from the 1990s. It did not even feel like I was using the same internet. You just can't do that much. And so that's the same thing with coding. That's the same, so many things down the line where it has primarily been developed in English, where the accessibility in English is just so much larger than being able to do it in another language. And so one thing I'm curious about is, can you talk a little bit about what your approach is to teach the students in your community English? I mean, what is the process that you're currently going through?
So basically, right, yeah, I'm not sure about across the globe. Yes, I can talk about the place from my area, right? Um, Except English, right? Every other languages, for example, it can be Tamil or Kannada or Telugu or Hindi. The people learn from maid, servant, or common people, right? They learn. But only English, right? They have to learn from the educated people, right? Because the people who went to college only are talking in English, right? There is a major difference between learning other language and English. If you want to learn Hindi, you can learn from streets. If you want to learn from Kannada, you go to Bangalore and learn from streets. If you want to learn Telugu, you go to Hyderabad or you can learn from streets. But English, it is not like that. English is taken as a language of the education or institutions and things like that, right? That I want to break that myth. I want to break the myth that I want to prove that, right? Even the people who didn't go to school, didn't go to college, can talk in English, right? Just like whoever is talking in Tamil, learned from your mother, learned from your neighbor, learned from other people, just by listening and repeating, right? That is the only way I learned Tamil, right? The same way, we created a model to make the people to talk in English, just like we learned Tamil. All other languages, we always listen and try to reproduce it. Only English, whenever you want to learn English, the people start to teach grammar, right? But immediately they start in present tense, past tense, future tense, and things like that. They will get into the technicality before teaching. But if you want to learn Hindi, no. See, I learned grammar. So I learned Tamil from my mother or my neighbor. Did they teach me grammar before I started to speak? No. I even my amma might not know this sentence. This sentence is named it as present tense, and that sentence is named it future tense, and that's it. So she knows that if we want to talk about today, okay, I have to say in present tense, right? I read, I go, I am reading, and things like that. But only in English, that is followed. I think that is followed. I don't know why so much of importance is given to grammar in English, right? I wanted to break that myth. So I wanted to teach my village people that no, you don't think that English is a knowledge. It is like any other language like Kannada or Telugu. You just listen and repeat. I think we are pretty successful in that model. I want to, first I will build the confidence that you can talk in English even if you don't go to school. The school has nothing to do with teaching you English. See, that is why to prove that point, we created a methodology, and I created school also, the name, the Kanavu School of English. It is run in 6 different rural place. Anyone can come and every day, 1 hour that school runs, and we have some curriculum, some methodology that is not based on grammatical stuff or anything. It just we will make the people to talk.
Yeah. And I've seen some great work being done. I mean, I remember I came in about maybe August for a day or two, and then I came again in November and December. And in that span, I had seen so much improvement in a lot of the students in their ability to speak and read. And I think one thing that you're bringing up that I find to be really interesting is the connection of speaking a language with confidence. And I think there is something to be said for that particular thing. And so here's kind of my question for you. When I think about what developed confidence within me over the span of my education, a lot of it had to do with being able to present on a certain issue and have the sense that, okay, my opinions and ideas are worth sharing. Even whether I have the correct tools or not with the language came later, but I think there is first a sense of belief in your own ideas. My question for you is it possible to develop the confidence within yourself separately from your ability to speak in English? So for example, being like, okay, today we're going to present on XYZ topic in the language that you're comfortable in, and developing the confidence to be able to present completely separately than doing it in English. Because I've heard a lot of other educators say that when you link the two, what ends up happening is people who can't speak English well will also fail to develop the ability to present well or have the confidence in themselves to present because they're facing two challenges, right? And this has nothing to do with speaking, but in a lot of ways, coding is also kind of like a language. And I remember there was a really difficult class where I also had to learn a new language. We had to learn C and we had to learn this complex subject. And so I had a fear of learning that subject because I couldn't speak that language well.
Mm-hmm.
And so that kind of made me fear the subject itself, not just, only later did I realize, it was more, my fear was more towards the language. And so I'm curious if your strategy could split those into two and how that works.
You made a great point, actually, right? The confidence and the sharing, talking, presenting is nothing to do with language. See, for example, you asked me a question, right? I am using English as a tool to communicate, that's all. But creating opinions and perspective on certain things, that is the most challenging part, and also a lot of involved with a lot of the personal of the individuals, also the characters of the individuals also. See, in order to talk, you need an opinion and perspective on everything, right? If you ask, so you have to have the point of view for everything, right? You have to have a political view, you have to have a right about country, about the society, about the relationship, right? You have to have a deeper understanding, and you have to form your own thoughts and process and things like that. But in that way, right, sometimes majority of the people, they don't develop their own perspectives and their opinions. They just go with faith, isn't it? That give a lot of comfort, right? See, whenever you are part of a tribal, right? It can be a Tamil tribal or a tribe, or it can be a part of English, or it can be a part of Hindu tribe, or it can be a part of Christianity and things like that. So it has a predefined set of template, and when you, most of the time, right from the beginning, right from the humanity is born, you are conditioned in such a way that where you are born, where your practices are. So all other opinions and perspectives towards the world is getting shaped because of all this, the comfort already we have it. Very rarely we start to think out of this box, isn't it? Okay, right? Hinduism says this one and Christianity says this one. Is it true? Or do we have enough time to think deeply about how this world was born? Or we can take it as it was created by God, right? So some people take time, some people take the serious interest to find out, right, how I was born, why I was born, right? Why I am living here and things like that. I have the feel that is nothing to do with language, that is nothing to do with English, and nothing to do with anything. Developing that kind of thing, right? I think right now the majority of the things are done by the spirituality and religious, the people, whether we agree it or not, that's a different thing. But at least in my opinion, instead of just agreeing to everything, right? Even if Einstein says or Stephen Hawking says, you should have time to think deeply on everything and develop your own. So that is why I used to tell my friends, everyone should be like a different religion, right? You have, so if someone asks which religion you are following, I will say Karthism, Karthi and Karthism. I follow because because I get something from Gautam, I get something from book, something I get from this one, and I form, right? I think that is the way it should operate instead of the common thing. So
Yeah.
uh, and yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, okay, having opinion, perspective, yes, that gives the confidence. But I think very, 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 very less percent of the people are getting deep dive into that, and they do world search there.
Yeah. I mean, I 100% agree. And I think a large part of that, when I think back to my own English classes, I think there's multiple parts to it. One, I think not everyone expresses themselves in the same way. So if what your point is to truly bring out deep thinking, you can't expect everyone to only show that through writing. Perhaps some people speak about it, or perhaps some people draw or write poetry. I mean, to bring out deep thinking in someone, you cannot expect everyone to do it in the same medium and also in the same language. And so I think it really depends on what the intention is when language is being taught. I mean, I remember in my English classes, for example, we would read a quote unquote great piece of literature, which first of all already is subjective. I mean, there's no, for each person, a different book could evoke a different amount of thinking based on how relevant it is to them. There's no just like one book that's great for everyone. And then they would give us a topic that would already they would have a kind of right answer for it. They would be like, all right, well, we're asking you this profound question, but we already know what the right answer is, right? I mean, when you're talking about themes, there's no right answer. I mean, the theme could be anything that the reader picks up from the book, so long as they're able to articulate it, in however they need to. So I think one failure in a lot of ways when language is being taught is this idea that there is some sort of right answer and there is a right way to get it. And that mixes the fear of deep thought and just the inability to teach language well, which I think don't have to go together. I mean, you can, which is why I was really curious. I was like, I think when those get intertwined is when people lose the ability to do both well.
Correct.
So
very true. You made a great point. But I think I have to work on it. But honestly, right now we are concentrating just as a tool. We are not teaching how to get into deeper on certain things. I think that we leave it to so many schools are there already running. It is a special school. Only we are concentrating on developing that language as a tool.
Yeah. So, one thing I've been fascinated by with a lot of the organizations I've worked in India is to truly work with the community, you have to think holistically. There's so many problems that's not just, okay, education in this one and therefore it's done. For example, in the community that you work with, I've seen that education is highly linked to employment. And so even if you are able to bring great education to everyone in the community, if they're not able to find employment, then all of a sudden a lot of people will ask, well, what was the point? And so I know that reasoning is how you got into starting the Kannavu Startup Village. And so I'd love to get into that now. Can you speak a little bit about what Kannavu Startup Village is and what was the inspiration to build it?
Yeah. So the Kanavu Startup Village, the inspiration came from the one very, very, very simple question, which was asked by my father around 6-7 years back. He asked, but he is no more. my sons, the two sons are in boarding school near to Pune. When I told my father that I was I was sending my two sons to boarding school, and immediately my father, whenever I say something, I share something, immediately he will ask, what was the cost of that one? Because he was very curious about anything. If I do, the first question comes from my father is like, what is the cost, right? How much is that? If I buy a car or whatever it might be, even if I say I'm going on a vacation, he will ask, hey, how much it will come, right? But he wanted to make sure that I'm not spending too much on anything, right? He wanted to make sure that I was not putting money on something which was not needed. That was a typical, but nothing wrong in it. That's his style. So I told him that I'm putting my son in Pune. He couldn't imagine why I was sending these many schools are around. Why is sending? Then he asked me how much it will come, right? When I told him that time, now it is so costly. That time itself, it was like it was coming around 5 to 6 lakhs per kid. I told him that it comes around uh, 6 lakhs or something like that. Immediately he asked one question, very profound question. He asked, if we do the math 1+1, right? It will come 2 or it will come different in that school. He asked me, right? Right, yeah, right. So his question was, if we do math 1+1 equal to 2, if it is taught in a village school, if it is taught in a government school, if it is taught in a private school, if it is taught in New York, if it is taught in Pune, the answer is the same. Then here the education is free. To get that 1+1 equal to 2, why you are saying you are spending 6 lakhs, right? That was he didn't say that. He asked the question, right? That is what I understood, right? That question was kept on going on in my mind, right? 1+1 equal to 2 everywhere, whoever teaches us, right? It is taught in Sydney or San Francisco or New York or Mumbai or Sivagiri. The answer is the same. Then I was thinking to myself, computers are all about the mathematics, right? Who are all abstract theories and abstractions and languages, everything is like mathematics. Even in our place, whoever does well in mathematics, I think to some extent they're good in programming, also in the logical and critical thinking. Then I was thinking to myself, right? I studied in my village, but I worked in San Francisco. My neighbor studied in my village. Right now, he is working in Chicago. Another guy, my neighbor girl, she studied here. Now she's in Sydney, Australia. What does it mean? The same village schools and village colleges in the villages, they produce the engineers, right? They produce engineers, right? It might not be whether it is a good engineer or bad engineer. What is the skill? That's a different story. But engineers produced by my school, village school, with zero fee, now they are part of Microsoft, Google, Facebook, everywhere. Then why we left, right? I did not go to Bangalore because I liked Bangalore. In fact, I hated Bangalore. I always, whenever I came back to my native place, when I was working in Bangalore, I hated Monday because I needed to leave my place. I have to go to Bangalore, right? If I really liked the city and really liked the city, I would have loved. I would have hated to come back, right? But I hated to go back from my village. But I always inspired, waiting for the day, that Friday, to come back to my native place. If that is the case, why I left? Because there was no opportunity. There was no computer science. I studied computer science. I didn't know what to do, right? All multinationals, right? They set up in Bangalore. All computer companies, they set up in Chennai. They set up in Coimbatore. Even the guy who studied in village wanted to start a company. He went to Bangalore and set it up, right? Then I was asking myself, why? Because 20 years back, there was no infrastructure, especially one infrastructure needed for IT company to set up was internet, right? Right now, the internet has been democratized. Everywhere it is available. In fact, in my village, is much faster than the Bangalore. If I go to Bangalore, I feel it is slower compared with my native village because the fiber optical is the same now. The 5G came and things like that. It is faster. So right now you have an infrastructure. The guy who studied in my village, in my school, in my college already, they are in the team of Bing or Google search engines and all those things. They are there. If that is the case, the same 1+1, just like my father asked, do we need to go to San Francisco to add 1+1 equal to 2? Can I sit in my village and do the same math, 1+1 equal to 2? I'm saying, can't I do the programming sitting in my village? If I can understand Einstein, E equal, and some of the very complex theories he produced, right? One of the revolutionary theories people like Stephen Hawkins and Einsteins and Newtons, they came up with, if I can understand Einstein, right? If I can understand the speed of the light, if I can understand the gravitational force, if I can understand the electromagnetic waves, if I can understand the electrical energies and thermo energies, which is taught in my village, right? Computer science is a very basic thing compared with the complexities of the universe, how the universe operates, how the universe was born, right? So I thought we don't need to go to a city, right? You develop a place where you love it, right? Just for the opportunity, you don't need to migrate. If you like, you can migrate, right? If you are getting the money which is 10 times higher than the someplace, that is why I came to America, because almost I made it 10 times higher, then it was worth leaving this place, right? If it is not, why should I leave? If what I was getting is not comparable, right? It was not huge, then why should I leave my place just to choose a place where you live, where you live, right?
Yeah.
So then I decided to try my company first. I was running a company called Digital Village, which was run in Bangalore. I wanted to try. I tried for a year. I got some of the great resources. I was able to support the customers globally. Then I told to my friends and people who are running other companies and who wanted to set up here, I told the same story. Why do you want to go to Bangalore? What is the reason why do you want to go to? Even if you go and set up in Bangalore, the guy who studied in my village only is going to come and join you there, right? Then instead, you come here, set up in my village. At least I wanted to bring the technology to the doorstep of the village guy. Just for the opportunity, he doesn't need to move. He can live the life of the village. He can enjoy the nature. He can enjoy the birds and animals, and he doesn't need to be so different. Right? Because when we move, that environment is totally different from the place where he was born. Why do we need to do such a sacrifice, right? If that is the case, if the people like me don't do this, who can do that, right? I have a global exposures. I have good connections. I know the technology and things like that. Why the people like me should start and try it, right? Isn't it? See, even after all those networks and 30 years of experience in the industry, again, I set up everything in Bangalore. I didn't see any difference setting up in Bangalore. One selfish reason is I wanted to be in a place where I love it, right? Then I create an environment, what I want to do, then I created the technology. Then I proposed this idea to the other companies also, right? Many people convinced that, right? They're ready to come. And also, I proposed this idea to the people who are studying in the village. Are you really want to go to Bangalore? Or if I give you the same salary and opportunity, you want to stay? Majority, um, without second thought, they're opting to stay here, right? Unless otherwise, the 10x benefit or 25x benefit is there. If I leave my place, that is worth a sacrifice. Right now, there is not much sacrifice to do that, right? So that's why I started Kanavu Startup Village, where I not only I set up my company, I talk to all the people, especially in the abroad, right? If they have an idea, they want to start, I tell them that come to my village. I give you the great infrastructure like power, electricity, power and internet, and also the people, right? So that is how the Kanavu Startup Village was born. Whoever has an idea, just a matter of 24 hours, they can just start. I can give the people over here. It works in both the sides. The person who has an idea can start immediately. The person who are studying here doesn't need to sacrifice so much just for the money, for the opportunity, right? So it solves both the sides.
Yeah, I mean, there's something very interesting about what you're talking about that I'm really excited to get into. But I was having a conversation a few episodes ago where we were talking about how when you're working with communities that are often not the ones in power, they often have to do more of the conforming into the major culture just so that they can fit in. So we're talking about working with Adivasi community, and which are the local tribal communities in India. And she was basically saying that for them to fit in, they have to learn all these different languages so that they can play the game just like everyone else and be part of the larger society at large. And one thing that you're bringing up, which I think is really interesting, is bringing autonomy and power back into the communities itself. So for example, in your example, if people don't have the opportunity to find employment in their own areas, they're forced to then leave to simply just find employment. So the way you bring power back is to bring the employment back into the areas that you live itself. I want to connect this to what we were talking about earlier, which is English. Do you think it's possible to also make types of employment where a person no longer needs to learn English unless they want to? Where, like, same way, you don't need to move to Bangalore unless you want to. You don't need to learn English unless you want to. You can simply become an expert at your own language and find employment and find meaning and find more than enough just using that language. Is it possible to do that, do you think?
So, I might be biased. I am sharing because of my experience. I understood Einstein and physics.
Yes.
If I don't know English, I wouldn't have understood them at all, right?
But that would be a choice, correct? Like if you were interested in learning that,
exactly.
Then you can
Here also, Here also, right? See, only the schools. See, here whatever I'm teaching is also I'm not forcing them or joining them. So whoever wants to learn, it is definitely a choice. Right now, see, in good thing about India is like everything you have a choice. Even in the religion front also, if we take majority of the people follow Hinduism, no one will force that you have to pray to this God. You have to do prayer on Saturday or Sunday. Here you can even you can be belong to here even saying there is no God. Right here, almost that freedom the people are having it. Right. And also by it is just a volunteer work. By force, it is extremely difficult to bring the people to make them study because I don't have the power to force them also. I am just saying, I cannot do them also. But I genuinely feel that to understand this science, because of my experience only I'm talking, maybe you might be having different views, and if you talk to other people, or if you talk to Chinese, they might be having a different thing. But from the internet, when I try to understand, especially energy and this cosmos and universe and things like that, I got all this beautiful, wonderful
Yeah.
teachers and materials from English only.
Yeah.
Right.
I guess the question becomes, sorry, I guess the bigger question becomes, which is this is why I'm very interested in this topic, which is our efforts better placed in perhaps making literature that's primarily in English more accessible for people in Tamil, or is it better to just teach everyone English? You get what I'm saying? Like, it's hard to tell where energy is better placed in. So for example, if you're able to create technology that translates all works in English effectively into a different language, would it be better placed to have energy placed towards there, or would it be better to have everyone learn English, right? Because I think this is one issue that happens a lot in Tamil Nadu especially, where even though people may argue, hey, like we should learn Hindi because it's the language that majority of the people in India speak, it makes it more effective. But in that language, people are very strong and they say we want to hold the mother tongue. We don't want to learn Hindi. However, when it comes to English, I'm assuming because of the history of colonialism, there is more of this acceptance of, okay, we will learn this language though, because it is more efficient and it is more useful for us to learn this. So it seems like there's like kind of this misalignment for the same logic and reasoning can apply to both languages, yet there is acceptance of English, but not for Hindi. So I've always just been curious, where do you think that comes from, for example?
See, it all because of this, I believe, opportunity only, right? See, for example, I don't know Hindi, right? If I know that I can make $1 million per month, if I know Hindi, I am sure in another 2 months I will learn. Right? It all depends upon what I am getting out of it, right? See, mother tongue, emotional attachment, right? My mother taught, I am talking. Everything else, I will see, is there any growth, right? Why I am
Utility.
doing it? That utility value, right? Why should I do that, right? See, for example, as you said, is it possible to translate every material from English to here, right? Imagine if that is the case, right? The whole world has to do that, right? Then all materials has to be converted into Kannada, it has to be converted into Telugu, it has to be converted into Hindi, it has to be converted into Spanish, it has to be converted into this, that, this, and see. Somehow I believe, especially for science and technology, right? I have the feel that, okay, the whole world, you can divide the whole things into two things, right? One is faith, another one is science, two wheels, right? Deal the faith in your own language, whatever the language you want. Deal the science using one language, English. That's my
That's an interesting theory.
yeah, right. That's my theory, right? So the whole world runs on two things, right? Two wheels. Faith, you have to accept. You have to have a confidence. You are getting the comfort immediately, right? Next life is there. Someone says you can accept it. You don't need to dig. Oh, certain things we cannot understand it. You accept it that there is a next life. That's faith, right? The science will question everything, right? So I think in these two wheels, I think two languages is needed. Two languages must. To deal the faith, take one language which is closer to your heart. To deal the technology, I think you need one language that is English, right? I dealt in that way only. Always I think through my language, Tamil. Whenever I watch movies, I watch Tamil movies. I cannot crack jokes in English. I cannot convey what exactly I have in my mind through English. To some extent, I can do, but I'm very comfortable in Tamil. I can laugh, I can listen, I can crack jokes, I can use all slangs and everything. I can do. I can understand the faith well and things like that. I can develop my perspectives using one language. about world opinions in one language. That is, it. I'm not going to say that should be that should be Tamil, or it should be Telugu, or that should be Kannada, or that should be right. That is whatever the language your mother teaches, right? Take it, because you have a closer, because already you lived with that language, right? Other thing, it is a choice to deal with it. Any other language, if I learn, I will have a one scale, right? Can I understand Einstein, or can I understand Stephen Hawking, or can I understand Newton, or can I understand Elon Musk using that language, right? But I can understand them using English. So one is two is must. In my opinion, it's my theory. It is, as I said, this is Karthism. You can take it, but everyone has a choice, right?
Yeah. It's an interesting philosophy. I've never heard that take on language. I think it's an interesting one.
Yeah.
But yeah, I
mean, it is it is, as you said, it is nothing called right or wrong, isn't it? It is just a subjective thing. We have to set what works for us. And I don't think that I love English only for the one reason, for technology. If I didn't study engineering, right? If I don't love engineering, if I don't love technology, if I don't love physics, I don't love universe, means I wouldn't have asked you to learn English.
Well said. Well, I really want to thank you for your time. I'm very curious, if people want to get in touch with you and your work and all that you do for Sivagiri, how can they get in contact with you?
Kanavu.org, Kanavu.org. That have all the details about myself, about Kanavu Startup Village, about Kanavu School of English, and my other company, Digital Village. And I conduct marathons and things like that, sports related activity. We didn't cover all those things. All these things you can take it from Kanavu.org.
And that brings us to the end of our conversation. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. Thank you again for listening and making this process so much more enjoyable. If you haven't had the chance to already, make sure to subscribe to the podcast on Spotify, Google, and Apple Podcasts to get the latest updates on new episodes. If you've been learning useful information here, feel free to leave a review as well. A little bit goes a long way in spreading this podcast. And have a wonderful day. And as per usual, stay re-educated.